The Bad Batch finale brought up some very interesting implications, especially concerning the wider Rebel Alliance. The rebellion is way more expansive than what we saw in Star Wars Rebels and the original trilogy. Conflicts in every corner of the galaxy. All we've seen so far is a very focused view. While some video games like Squadrons and Battlefront 2 did provide us some more context, they don't cover the entirety of what is the rebellion. And so as you're going to see in this video, Star Wars just set up a massive possibility to show us Omega during that time, and inadvertently demonstrate a wider rebel scope. She may have been involved in factions and struggles not depicted on screen just yet, but there is still a connection to the Ghost Crew and characters we know. Are you guys ready? Let's begin. Major spoilers for the Bad Batch and Star Wars Rebels. So now that the Bad Batch has come to an end, and Omega expresses a desire at the end of the episode to become a rebel pilot, the most obvious question, given her friendship to Hera Syndulla, is why doesn't she appear in Star Wars Rebels later on? Out of universe, the answer is very simple. Omega didn't yet exist in the mind of Dave Filoni. In universe though, one would have assumed she would have spent more time with the Ghost Crew, and I honestly think they will meet again, probably in the Mandoverse. But today, we ask the question, where was Omega during the events of Star Wars Rebels seasons 1 to 4? The short answer is, we don't know. The long answer is a bit more complicated, and a 2015 novel alluded to it. If there's one thing Lucasfilm has in its favour, is that many rebels like Luthen and Andor aren't even mentioned by Saw Gerrera or anywhere in the early seasons of the animated show, during a time they're alive, and during events adjacent to parts of Andor Season 1. The reality is it's a big universe, and it's very possible Omega and Hera spend time together after the Bad Batch, but prior to the events of the Rebels pilot. And it's also possible they don't speak during the events of Rebels but only meet up afterwards, after Thrawn's return to the known galaxy. There are quite a few important years between the events of both animated shows, and if we do get another Clone Wars spin-off after this one, I would love to see those explored. As I said, there is a book from 2015, The Rise of the Empire, which sheds light on this time period. In the years leading up to meeting Kanan Jarrus, Hera went through quite a lot, and it was a very rough time for her family. Following the last time we saw her in the Bad Batch's first season, the Free Ryloth movement led by Cham, her dad, launched a resistance struggle against the Imperial regime. During this resistance, Eleni, Hera's mum, was killed, and Cham came to prioritize Ryloth's freedom over his own family's well-being. As a result, strains developed in the relationship between Hera and her dad. Hera was angry at Cham for neglect, and in return, Cham was angry at his daughter for spending more time with Chopper, who he labelled a second-rate pile of junk, than the resistance movement. In Rebels, this tension is on full display, and that is when Hera breaks into a French accent, as if reverting to a time when she was just a kid. Hera's relationship with her dad was further strained when she fully joins the rebellion. He wanted his daughter to devote all of her time to the resistance to defend Ryloth. Following a failed assassination attempt against the Emperor and Darth Vader, one we read about in Lords of the Sith, Hera travelled on a relief mission to deliver a supply of Gatis root to the Imperial-occupied world. This mission failed, but it demonstrated that despite arguments with her dad, she still helped out and felt a deep sense of solidarity with her fellow Rylothians. For all we know, Hera called upon the help of Omega once again. Maybe the fan-favourite clone helped Twi'lek forces. Anywhere in this time period, she might have reunited with Omega, and I've seen some fans wonder, are we going to see Omega in Andor Season 2? I'm going to say no. They're not the kind of characters Tony Gilroy wants to throw in, although Chopper did feature in Rogue One, and the Syndulla name can be heard on Yavin Base. So my prediction is a Dave Filoni-led project, Ahsoka's second season, or another spin-off. Maybe we'll get a Tales of the Rebellion. So Hera went on to become an agent of Bail Organa, and joined a rebel network led by the mysterious Fulcrum, who ended up being Ahsoka Tano. And despite her differences with her dad, she was still inspired by his reputation and everything he achieved as a leader. And later, as we know, she would meet Kanan Jarrus. If Hera did work with Omega prior to Season 1 of Rebels, the question becomes, why did they lose touch? Well, it's very possible Omega was a pilot for a different squadron or rebel division. Their different priorities and different missions took them elsewhere. They went down different routes. But now, my dear friends, there is finally precedent to bring Omega into live action. Super exciting. And you know, I was thinking about different connections. Omega could appear in Skeleton Crew. Granted, it's a small probability, but hear me out. A series oriented around children trying to find their way home. If Omega is working with the New Republic by then, she could be someone to help navigate the youngsters back to their home worlds. A major hint, this is a possibility, is the fact she is very maternal to the specimens. She is a caring person. Alternatively, Rangers of the New Republic, if it comes back. With the lead character being up in the air, Omega could be someone who takes down the Imperial Remnant and strives to make the galaxy a better place. Of course, given the fact she knows Fennec, there could be a future story that ties to Boba Fett. But for now, if Omega is working with the Rebellion, she is working against Boba's interests at this time. But later on, escaping the Sarlacc, that could be a very fun meeting. I know they didn't show us too much of it, but Hera Syndulla and Omega share so many similarities. Leadership skills, daringness, bravery, a nurturing personality and a sense of duty, a strong ethical code, taking matters into their own hands, and wanting to do the right thing. What I think is going to happen is that Hera's experience as a leader in the Rebel Alliance is going to lead her to recognize Omega's potential as a valuable asset in this fight. She recognizes the drive she has as a clone, a marginalized group that was just chucked aside by Palpatine's agenda. And that's why I see a fundamental connection between the two characters. And just to finish, StarWars.com posted a very interesting article talking about the final moments of the last episode of The Bad Batch. They said this, taking a page from the Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels, which both incorporated an epilogue to give fans a hint at the future of their favourite characters from the series. The final scene flashes forward in time to find a grizzled Hunter and a grown-up Omega saying goodbye. So they're really saying how this was definitely in the same vein as the way Rebels ended. And they know we have a ton of questions, more so than answers. Where does this leave the rest of the batch? Where are they later in the timeline? And did you know, my dear friends, Michelle Ang changed the way she voiced the character for the final scene. It's more akin to her natural speaking voice because Omega is now an adult. So with a big future hinted for Omega, it'll be fascinating to see the character she comes across. In the same way Ahsoka had such a big role outside of animation, but that is where she started, and then she met Luke, Grogu, and Imperial warlords like Thrawn. So I'm very optimistic about the future of Omega's character. But what do you guys think? Do you think they're going to tie in some things with Hera Syndulla? Are we going to get another spin-off show? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this one, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next video. May the Force be with you, always.